Hi, Mystery Recapped here. Today, I'm going to explain a thriller movie called Ghost. Watch out and take care. A woman is visited by the ghost of her boyfriend, who was recently shot dead. He warns that his murderers will soon attack her too, but if they can work together, she can take revenge for his death and put the culprits behind bars. The movie then skips to a few weeks earlier with the introduction of our protagonists. Sam Wheat, a hotshot banker, and Molly Jensen, a talented potter, are a young couple. So he pays for everything and she knows how to touch phalluses. They moved into a New York City apartment a few days ago and are currently in the process of furnishing it. The duo is madly in love with each other and have started to plan their future ahead. However, despite all the progress in his personal and professional life, Sam remains anxious. He reveals that whenever anything good happens in his life, he becomes scared about losing it. Molly reassures him that everything will be fine and says that she loves him. But instead of telling her that he loves her too, Sam replies by saying, "Ditto. That's a Pokemon, bitch. Do you love me or not?" One day at work, Sam discovers a major discrepancy in a couple of bank accounts. There seems to have been a huge influx of money in a short amount of time. Sam is suspicious that something shady is happening and thus changes the access passcode. Now, no one will be able to withdraw or deposit money in these accounts without his knowledge. He also confides this to his good friend and colleague, Carl Bruner. That night, Sam and Molly return home after watching Macbeth at a local theater. They are on their way, all the while discussing their future plans. Molly complains that Sam never explicitly says he loves her. Every time she expresses her feelings, he replies with ditto, which she feels is dismissive. However, before he can answer anything, an armed man named Willie Lopez emerges from a nearby alleyway. He points his gun at Sam and demands for his wallet. The banker is about to comply, but the situation suddenly takes a turn for the worse. Molly, in an attempt to calm down everything, approaches her lover. This prompts Willie to smack her in the face, an act that enrages Sam. Seconds later, he lunges at the thug and the two get into an intense scuffle. As Molly screams for someone to help them, a loud gunshot rings across the desolate street. The camera pans away as we see Sam chasing Willie, who seems to be fleeing from the spot. It appears as if the thug has given up and that our hero has taken charge of the situation. However, when Sam returns back to the earlier spot, he sees a spine-chilling sight. Molly is weeping over his lifeless body. Sam is shaken by what he is witnessing and even tries to touch his own face, but his hands go right through the body, and soon two people pass through like he is made out of air. Suddenly, a stream of bright white light appears from the sky, right where Sam is standing. It is obvious that this is a pathway sent by the angels to take Sam to heaven. However, he refuses to go with it and runs back to the spot where Molly is still trying to wake him up. She clearly doesn't realize that her lover has actually already passed away. Shortly afterwards, an ambulance brings Sam's body to a nearby hospital, where he is officially pronounced dead. Ghost Sam watches everything with confusion, still finding it difficult to grasp what is happening. He sits down right next to the stretcher on which his corpse has been kept. This is when an old man arrives at the scene and asks what happened to Sam. It is revealed that the old man is also a ghost, who is also still lingering around the living world. Your girlfriend a potter too? Yeah? Can't get over the phallus thing either, can you? No, I know, buddy. Sam is so rattled by the recent events that he is unable to say anything. This makes the old guy realize that Sam is struggling to make sense of what's happening. He thus reassures the young man that everything will soon seem normal. The duo then sits quietly and watches the doctors operating on a cardiac patient in a nearby room. Shortly afterwards, a bright stream of light appears over the operating table. The patient's soul then leaves his body and flows away with the light. This finally makes Sam realize that he's become a ghost. Having come to terms with his death, Sam begins to hang out in his apartment. The days pass by and he sees that Molly is utterly broken. She talks to herself, cannot focus on her work, and sobs from time to time. Sam is disheartened that he cannot communicate with her no matter what he tries. But rather strangely, he realizes that her pet cat can sense his presence. Stop licking your butt and tell her that I miss her. A few days later, Carl comes to the apartment and helps Molly sort her deceased lover's belongings. She puts all of Sam's personal belongings, including his small address book, inside a shoebox. Meanwhile, Carl urges Molly to go out of the apartment for the sake of her mental health. He then asks if she would like to go on a walk with him, to which Molly hesitantly agrees. Nearby, the ghost of Sam is also about to leave the apartment, but Molly locks the door from the outside. This forces Sam to test if he can walk through doors, and he begins to put his arm through the wood. However, his attempt is interrupted when Willie suddenly barges into the apartment. The thug immediately starts scanning all the rooms as he seems to be searching for something. An enraged Sam swings his fists, but just like before, his punches go straight through the intruder. He is forced to watch helplessly as Willie continues to ransack the apartment. Unfortunately, things go from bad to worse as Molly soon returns home. The killer, who is carrying a gun, is still in the apartment and fully aware of her arrival. Sam desperately tries to warn her about the impending danger, but to no avail. She goes straight upstairs to her bedroom and begins to undress. On the other hand, Willie hides nearby and enjoys the view like a pervert. Desperate to save his girlfriend's dignity as well as her life, Sam comes up with a plan. He sees their pet cat nearby and remembers how it sensed his presence earlier. So he lunges at the cat without warning, spooking the poor animal. The cat in turn jumps at Willie and scratches his face. This forces him to get out of his hiding place and flee the apartment. Having successfully averted the danger for the time being, Sam decides to follow Willie. He rushes through the closed door and chases after the thug on the streets outside. Willie soon heads to the nearby subway station and gets into a train. Unbeknownst to the murderer, the ghost of Sam is closely following him. At first, everything seems to be normal as Sam keeps his eye on Willie, but suddenly, a tall, rough-looking passenger gets up. He approaches Sam and walks right through Willie, who is standing nearby. It is obvious that the man is also a ghost, who is still lingering around the mortal world for some reason. Things get even more weird when he grabs Sam's neck and aggressively shoves his head out of the train. Then, the man pulls Sam inside before throwing him across the train carriage. The man boldly claims that this train belongs to him and says that no other ghosts are allowed in.
Get your own train! Woo-hoo.
Thankfully for Sam, Willie gets off on the next station, which means he doesn't have to deal with the psycho ghost for now. He continues to pursue the thug and soon arrives in a rather unglamorous part of Brooklyn. There, Sam sees the criminal's name on the door and enters his apartment. Shortly afterwards, Willie gets a phone call from someone, and we get to know some chilling information. It is revealed that Sam's death was not simply an accident. Someone had paid Willie to do so. In fact, Sam realizes that the thug will return to the apartment once more because he wants the wallet. As if this wasn't enough, he sees Willie creepily glancing at Molly's driving license. Sam loudly warns the thug to stay away from her, but nobody can hear him. Following this, a bewildered Sam walks out and starts wandering through the city streets. He is desperately looking around for help when he sees a strange office. Nearby, there is an advertising board for Oda Mae Brown, a local con artist who poses as a medium for people who have lost loved ones. Sam enters the office and sees Oda Mae faking her abilities to an old woman who has lost her husband. He is left unimpressed and criticizes her for scamming the client. Oda Mae hears him and initially dismisses his voice as an illusion, but as Sam keeps passing comments about her work, she snaps back and asks where the voice is coming from. A shocked Sam realizes that she can hear him and starts repeatedly taking his name. This scares the woman, prompting her to retreat into her room. When her assistants ask what happened, Oda Mae simply screams, "Sam Wheat." The scene abruptly shifts to some time later, and we see Oda Mae has accepted that she can hear Sam. He explains his situation and says he needs her help to save his girlfriend. Oda Mae refuses to help at first because she believes that Molly will not believe her, but Sam forces her by singing an annoying song non-stop for many hours.
Bitch, I meant what I said. I'd rather be famous instead.
The following day, Oda Mae comes to Sam's former apartment. She tries to get her job done by quickly telling Molly that she is in danger. Of course, the latter doesn't believe her and refuses to have further conversation, but Oda Mae manages to establish some credibility by stating facts about Molly that only Sam knew. Eventually, the two women have a conversation, and Oda Mae reveals that she can talk with Sam's ghost. She then blurts out all the information that he gave her. She even urges Molly to go to the police and report a criminal named Willie Lopez. Later that evening, Molly shares this news with Carl, but he's skeptical about the whole thing. He implies that Oda Mae is a fraud preying on her grief and volunteers to investigate the matter himself. Carl then heads towards Brooklyn, unaware that Sam's ghost is closely following him. They eventually arrive at Willie's apartment, where Sam makes a devastating discovery. He finds out that Carl is involved in a money laundering scheme at the bank. It was he who had hired Willie to kill Sam so that he could acquire Sam's security codes. All this was done so that Carl could transfer the money from their bank to an offshore account. A horrified Sam yells at his friend for betrayal, but the latter doesn't hear a word. In the meantime, Molly talks to the police about her concerns about someone named Willie Lopez, but the cops don't seem to take her seriously. They instead tell her that Oda Mae is a known trickster with a lengthy criminal record, whereas Willie Lopez has none. Now desperate to save his girlfriend from further harm, Sam heads to the nearby subway station. He tracks down the aggressive ghost and has a conversation. He had seen the subway ghost move newspapers during their first meeting. Sam now wants to learn how to move solid objects like that.
I can't do that. The newspaper was a ghost too.
Following this, the subway ghost gives Sam a brief lesson about using his rage and willpower to move things. Sam concentrates on his fear of seeing his lover being hurt and his friend's betrayal, and successfully kicks a can of soda. Later that day, he goes back to Oda Mae and persuades her to thwart Carl's money laundering scheme. Following his instructions, she heads to the bank and impersonates the owner of Carl's fake bank account. The duo then leaves after successfully withdrawing a cashier's check of a whopping $4 million. Or maybe it was like 10,000. I don't know, we've screwed that up before. Nonetheless, when they come out of the bank, Oda Mae reluctantly gives all the money to a homeless shelter. On the other hand, this news soon reaches Carl, who had promised to transfer the money to an offshore account. He gets incredibly desperate when he finds the account closed and empty. That night, Sam taunts Carl in the deserted office by typing murderer, then his name, Sam, on the screen. This prompts Carl to run away and visit Molly in order to find out any clues about what's happening. By this point, Carl has started to believe that Sam's ghost is haunting him. He asks Molly to bring him a headache-relieving tablet, and she heads upstairs to get it. Carl uses this opportunity and declares to Sam that he will kill Molly unless the money is returned that evening. Following this, Carl and Willie rush to Oda Mae's apartment to find her. Sam, who knew they would go there, manages to arrive first. He warns Oda Mae and her two sisters, who quickly escape and take refuge in a neighbor's apartment. Sam then uses his powers to separate the two thugs. During their attempt to ransack Oda Mae's apartment, a panic-stricken Willie, who is seeing objects fly on their own, flees from the apartment. But, unfortunately for the thug, Sam continues to knock him down repeatedly. The chase forces Willie to run between two motorists on a busy intersection. He is sandwiched between the vehicles and eventually killed on the spot. In a horrifying twist of events, Willie's ghost arises and sees his corpse. Before he can realize what's happening, a group of howling, dark creatures emerge from nearby shadows and pull him to hell. Afterwards, Sam and Oda Mae return to Molly's apartment to warn her about Carl, but she refuses to let Oda Mae in and breaks down in grief. The ghost of Sam, who is now desperate to prove his existence, comes up with a quick plan. He enters the apartment and asks Oda Mae to push a penny underneath the front door. Sam then levitates it in front of Molly, who watches in utter shock. She finally believes that her lover is still roaming around in ghost form. Following this, Molly lets Oda Mae inside, and they quickly call the police to the apartment. While they wait for the cops, Oda Mae allows Sam to use her body so that he can share a final dance with his lover. This feels like a sweet deal for Oda Mae. Unfortunately for the trio, though, Carl arrives with the malicious intent of murdering Molly and Oda Mae. The women flee while Sam is left momentarily weakened, as he had used a lot of energy to possess Oda Mae's body. In the meantime, Carl chases the two women to a storage room. He manages to get a hold of Oda Mae and threatens to kill her. However, Molly comes to the rescue and holds Carl off long enough for Oda Mae to escape his grasp. Now blinded by rage, Carl grabs Molly and holds her at gunpoint for the money, but Sam recovers just in time to disarm his ex-best friend and attacks him relentlessly. A desperate Carl attempts to escape through a window and flings a scaffolding hook into Sam's direction. It swings back and shatters the glass in the upper part of the window. Sadly for Carl, a giant shard slides down and fatally impales him before he can climb out. Moments later, Carl's ghost arises from his corpse, much to his astonishment. He finally sees Sam's ghost standing nearby, but the latter has a solemn look on his face. Before the two can get into a fight, the dark creatures once again arrive and drag a screaming Carl away to hell. In the aftermath, when Sam goes to the women to ask if they are all right, Molly suddenly realizes that she can hear him. A heavenly light then fills the room, and Sam becomes fully visible to both the women. He looks behind him and sees hundreds of people, presumably angels, in a portal to heaven. Sam can move on now that he has completed his task. On YouTube, the movie ends as he shares one last kiss with Molly and his audience, and that's weird, and then departs for the afterlife.